Some families in history are so strange that their secrets shocked the entire world. Yes, you hear that right. In this video, we're talking about the world's most inbred families. Now, what does inbred mean? It's when people marry or have children only within their own family, like cousins or even closer relatives, instead of choosing partners from outside. This leads to serious health problems, unusual looks, and shocking family stories. And today, we're going to uncover such inbred families whose lives will leave you speechless. Cleopatra's hidden bloodline. History often paints Cleopatra as the most beautiful queen of Egypt, but the truth is far more complex. She wasn't just about looks. Her intelligence and charm gave her the power to win the hearts of Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. But behind the throne, her family carried a dark secret. The rulers of her dynasty kept marrying within their own bloodline to protect power. So much so that while most people had 16 great-great-grandparents, Cleopatra only had 6. She even married 2 of her own brothers. This deep inbreeding raised suspicions that health problems like thyroid disorders and obesity seen in her family weren't just from lavish living, but from generations of intermarriage. Yet Cleopatra herself was different. Despite her family's tangled lineage, she showed no obvious genetic flaws. She ruled Egypt for 21 years with a sharp mind and strong leadership. Unlike her ancestors, she had children with powerful foreign rulers, keeping her bloodline from further inbreeding. Ancient records are messy, filled with multiple wives and countless children, making the full truth hard to trace. Still, Cleopatra's story shows how even in a family trapped by tradition, she managed to stand apart and secure her place as one of history's most unforgettable queens. Blue people of Kentucky. Strange whispers once spread through the hills of Kentucky about a family with skin as blue as the sky. In the 1960s, a nurse named Ruth Pendergrass met a woman whose lips, nails, and face were all tinted blue. At first, Ruth feared something was terribly wrong, but to her surprise, the woman was perfectly healthy, only suffering from a small cold. Curious, Ruth searched deeper and stumbled upon the legend of the Fugate family of Troublesome Creek, whose unusual skin color came from a rare gene passed down for generations. Their story began way back in the 1820s when a French immigrant named Martin Fugate married Elizabeth Smith. Both unknowingly carried the same hidden gene, and soon many of their children were born blue. Living in an isolated valley, the family often married among relatives, which kept the rare trait alive and turned them into a local mystery. By the 1960s, 2 young Fugates, Patrick and Rachel, were desperate to escape the stigma of their strange appearance. They turned to doctors at the University of Kentucky, who discovered the cause, methemoglobinemia, a rare condition that turns blood dark and skin blue. The cure was shockingly simple, a dose of methylene blue. Within minutes of treatment, their skin turned back to normal. For Patrick and Rachel, it was like stepping into a new life, free from the stares and whispers that had haunted their family for more than a century. But this story also carries a warning. When families marry too close, hidden genes can resurface in strange and sometimes devastating ways, as seen in other cases around the world. Colt family horror. Dark secrets can stay hidden for years, but when they surface, they shake the world. That's exactly what happened with the Colt family, a name the courts in New South Wales used to protect the victims. It all started making headlines in 2010 when reports came in about children living in shocking conditions of neglect and isolation. By 2012, authorities removed 12 children from a broken-down property in Budja. The adults faced charges for failing to provide even the most basic needs, like food, hygiene, and schooling. Investigators soon uncovered horrifying details. Many of the children had serious health and developmental problems, and DNA tests revealed they were born from incest within the family. Some were also victims of abuse by their own relatives. But the roots of this nightmare stretched much further back. It began in the 1960s when Timothy and June Colt moved from New Zealand to Australia. June herself was the child of siblings, and after marrying Timothy, they had 7 children, keeping the dark cycle alive. Over time, their family grew into nearly 40 people spread over 5 generations, living in isolation without even electricity or running water. The result was years of suffering, genetic health issues, and broken lives. The Colt family became one of the most chilling examples of how silence and secrecy can destroy generations. Mad King of Bavaria. History hides stories darker than fairy tales, and one of them is about a king who lost himself in his own dreams. In 1800s Germany, royals were often forced to marry within their own families, and this led to generations of strange illnesses and troubled minds. From this bloodline came King Ludwig II of Bavaria, a ruler who cared little about running his kingdom. Instead, he poured his heart and fortune into building magical castles. His most famous creation, Neuschwanstein Castle, stood high on the mountains like something out of a fantasy story. But while the world admired its beauty, it revealed Ludwig's growing distance from reality. By the 1880s, the king had completely shut himself away, living more with his dreams than with his people. His strange behavior alarmed his advisors, who finally declared him insane and stripped him of power. Just 3 days later, on June 13, 1886, Ludwig's body was found floating in a lake. The officials called it suicide, but whispers of murder spread quickly. Some believed he ended his own life, while others suspected he was silenced because he'd become too much of a burden. To this day, the mystery of Bavaria's Mad King remains unsolved. Ancient Irish royal secret. A shocking discovery hides inside an old Irish tomb, where researchers found DNA that tells a dark royal story. In 2020, scientists studied the remains of more than 40 people buried around the famous Newgrange tomb, but one man's DNA stood out. It showed extreme inbreeding, possibly between siblings or even a parent and child. This man was no ordinary farmer. He was part of an elite class that ruled Ireland over 5,000 years ago. What makes this even more disturbing is that only the powerful were buried in such grand tombs. Ordinary people were never given this honor. This means the royals may have kept power in their bloodline through such shocking practices. And this was not just an Irish secret. The same pattern is seen in Egyptian pharaohs and even Hawaiian royalty, showing how far rulers would go to protect their throne. Neanderthal secrets. Strange discoveries from the past show us a darker side of human history. Around 40,000 years ago, the Neanderthals disappeared, but their story did not end there. In 2013, scientists studied a 50,000-year-old toe bone found in Siberia's Altai Mountains. The DNA revealed that the woman it belonged to was born from half-sibling parents. This was not rare. Neanderthals often lived in small cut-off groups during the Ice Age, and with so few partners around, many ended up marrying close relatives. But this isolation came with a heavy cost. A study in 2019 showed that inbreeding may have damaged the health of Neanderthals. Weak immunity, genetic problems, and lower fertility made them less able to survive in a harsh world. Meanwhile, early modern humans had stronger genetic variety, which gave them the edge. As the struggle for survival continued, Neanderthals slowly faded away while modern humans thrived. Kingston Clan. Dark family secrets run deep in the Kingston Clan, a group that started in 1935 under the name Davis County Cooperative Society in Salt Lake City. Later called the Latter-day Church of Christ, this clan built its power on strict rules, fear, and apocalyptic beliefs. They reject government authority and keep women under male control. Polygamy is still practiced in the family, just like the early Mormon days. But things took a disturbing turn when leader Ortel Kingston encouraged incest to keep the bloodline pure. He fathered children with 2 half-sisters and 2 nieces, and later generations followed with marriages between cousins, half-siblings, and even underage members. The story gets even darker when you look at how far they go to hide the truth. In 2023, the clan faced criminal convictions for tax fraud, but the real horror lies inside their hidden world. Many birth records leave out fathers' names to cover up family ties, making it hard for authorities to investigate. Behind the closed doors of this secretive clan, reports have described children born with severe health issues like vision problems, small skulls, and dwarfism. The Kingston Clan continues to protect its secrets, leaving one question hanging: how far will they go to keep the world from knowing the full truth?
Ancient sacred marriages. Long ago in ancient Iran, the followers of Zoroastrianism had a belief that shocked outsiders. While most societies saw incest as sinful, some Zoroastrians considered it sacred. Their old texts from the 9th and 10th century described a practice called queddota, marriages between close relatives. These writings claimed such unions kept bloodlines pure, strengthened family bonds, and even brought parents closer to their children. But the truth about how often these marriages really happened is still unclear. Historians think it may have been more common among priests and noble families, while ordinary people likely practiced it far less. What makes this belief even more interesting is how it lived on through stories. Folktales from that region often spoke of close kin marriages, giving the idea a place in cultural memory even if real-life examples were rare. Scholars today point out that these tales appear far more than actual historical evidence, suggesting the practice was exaggerated in religious texts. Now, Iran is a Muslim country where Islam forbids most incest, but cousin marriages are still accepted in many families. Some say this tradition might carry faint echoes of those ancient Zoroastrian ideas about keeping family and lineage strong. Allentown's hidden world. Deep in the Adirondack Mountains of New York lies a place few outsiders have ever seen. It's called Allentown, or simply The Hollow, a community that stayed cut off from the rest of the world for over 200 years. The families there, mostly Allens and Catherines, survived through farming and trapping, without police, fire protection, or even modern comforts. When a dam flooded the nearby Sacandaga Valley, their isolation grew even worse. And while many people left, the Allens and Catherines stayed behind on the land their ancestors had claimed. Life became even harsher during the Great Depression, when mills closed and poverty deepened. That's when dark rumors of abuse and incest spreading in nearby towns. To protect themselves, the community built a barrier that looked almost like a medieval fortress, shutting themselves away even further. By the 1970s and 1980s, social workers finally gained access to the Hollow, and what they found shocked them. Families lived in homes with dirt floors, no heat, no running water, relying on fire pits for warmth as if trapped in another time. An anthropology professor was even called to study this unusual society, and the research showed how strongly they resisted outside help. Over time, social workers slowly introduced better housing, insulation, and basic conveniences. As for the disturbing rumors, the families denied abuse but admitted that nearly everyone was related, since the community came from only a few founding families. This led to generations of inbreeding and serious health issues. Yet through every hardship, the people of Allentown showed remarkable endurance, proving how survival is possible even in the harshest isolation, but also warning how dangerous life can become without diversity and connection to the outside world.
Short Creek's hidden curse. Deep inside the remote Short Creek community, life was built on polygamy and big families, a tradition seen as a way to survive. But beneath these customs, a darker truth began to unfold. In 1990, a doctor named Theodore Tarby examined a local boy who had strange physical traits and developmental delays. After many tests, he discovered something shocking, a rare disorder called fumarase deficiency, which stops the body from producing energy properly. This condition leads to seizures, poor brain growth, and lifelong struggles. Former community member Faith Bistline later revealed she cared for 5 cousins suffering from the same disorder, with only one of them able to walk while the rest needed feeding tubes. What was once thought rare turned out to be far more common in Short Creek. As more cases appeared, the real reason became clear. Years of inbreeding had created a shrinking gene pool. With men marrying multiple wives and families interwoven for generations, genetic risks multiplied. Scientists discovered not only fumarase deficiency, but also higher rates of heart defects and dwarfism among the people. Yet many in Short Creek avoided doctors due to distrust of outsiders, leaving these conditions hidden for years. Slowly, some families have started seeking medical care and genetic testing, opening the door to awareness and education. Still, resistance remains strong. The story of Short Creek is a haunting reminder of how isolation and traditions, when left unchecked, can threaten the very survival of a community. Inca bloodline secrets. Power in the Inca Empire was not always passed down to the oldest son. At first, leaders were chosen for their skills, but soon the royal families started protecting power in a very different way. To keep the throne inside their bloodline, Inca rulers often married their own sisters or half-sisters. This shocking practice was meant to keep their lineage pure and free from outsiders.
It was extreme, but for them, it was a way to control the empire and stop bloody fights over succession. Years later, researchers uncovered chilling proof of this tradition. In 2017, Sarah K. Becker shared findings from ancient burials in Peru that showed signs of heavy inbreeding. Skeletons dating back hundreds of years had rare spinal and hip deformities that only appear after generations of close relative marriages. One excavation in Lima even revealed 6 women buried beside a powerful man, all showing the same deformities, believed to be his wives. These discoveries revealed a dark truth. Incestuous unions were not accidents, but an accepted way for ancient elites to hold on to power.
Royal bloodlines. Hawaii's past hides a world where tradition ruled every step of life. Long ago, society was built like a ladder, with commoners at the bottom and the powerful ali, the royal chiefs, at the very top. These chiefs lived under strict sacred rules called kapu, and breaking them could even mean death. But the most shocking part was their marriages. To keep their royal blood strong and pure, many ali married within their own family, sometimes even their brothers and sisters. For Hawaiians, this was a sign of prestige and power, but for outsiders, it was hard to accept. Everything changed in the early 1800s when European missionaries arrived with Christian beliefs. King Kamehameha III and his sister Nahi-Aninea were caught right in the middle of this clash between tradition and religion. They were close, and some say they even tried to marry. But under the pressure of missionaries, Nahi-Aninea was pushed to wed another man. Yet whispers remain that she had a child with her brother, though the baby did not survive. Nahi-Aninea herself passed away at only 20 years old, leaving behind a story of love, power, and the heartbreaking struggle between old customs and new beliefs. Habsburg curse. History hides some of the strangest family stories, and the Habsburgs are one of them. For centuries, this royal family ruled powerful lands across Europe, but they guarded their throne in a very unusual way. Instead of marrying outside, they kept choosing partners from within their own bloodline. It all started in 1496, when Philip I married Joanna of Castile, and for over 200 years this tradition continued. But the price was heavy. Many of their children never made it past infancy, and those who survived carried visible marks of this legacy. One of the most striking signs was the Habsburg jaw, a large protruding jaw that made speaking and even eating difficult. But the most tragic figure of them all was Charles II, born in 1665. His father had married his own niece, and Charles became both son and great-nephew at the same time. His life was filled with suffering. He couldn't walk until he was 4, couldn't speak until he was 8, and his jaw left his mouth hanging open, causing constant drooling. Weak in health and unable to have children, Charles II died in 1700 with no heir. His death didn't just end his life, it ended an empire's control and sparked the 13-year War of Spanish Succession. The downfall of the Habsburgs showed the world how dangerous it can be when power is protected through blood instead of wisdom.
Royal blood curse. A hidden curse ran through the royal bloodline of Queen Victoria. She herself lived a healthy life, but she unknowingly carried the gene for hemophilia, a disease that stops blood from clotting and turns even a small cut into a deadly risk. This genetic shadow passed on to her children and grandchildren, striking especially hard at the men of the family. Her own son, Prince Leopold, suffered terribly and died young at just 30. From Britain, the curse spread across Europe through marriages, reaching Spain and Russia, where Victoria's grandsons also fell victim to the same tragic fate. The story turned even darker in Russia, when Queen Victoria's granddaughter, Alexandra, gave birth to a son, Crown Prince Alexei, who had hemophilia. To protect the secret of his illness, Alexandra turned to the mystic Rasputin, whose strange influence over the royal family fueled political chaos. The truth stayed hidden from the public, but unrest grew, leading to Rasputin's assassination and the brutal end of the Romanov family in 1918. While hemophilia wasn't the only cause, it played a role in shaking royal power. This deadly gene became a reminder of how intermarriage for political gain came with hidden dangers. Today, science has given hope for families battling this disease, but the story of Queen Victoria's bloodline shows how illness,
power and history can collide to change the world forever. Tutankhamun's secret. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922 shocked the world with treasures no one had seen before. Unlike other pharaohs whose tombs were looted, his resting place stayed untouched for thousands of years until Howard Carter opened it. Inside were gold masks, fine jewelry, and furniture that gave us an unmatched look into ancient Egyptian life and burial traditions. Before this, Tutankhamun was barely remembered. He ruled only 10 years, died at 18, and left behind little history. Yet his tomb made him one of the most famous names in the world, unlocking secrets of a forgotten king and the golden age of Egypt.
But the story didn't end there. Modern DNA tests revealed something dark hidden in his bloodline: inbreeding. Pharaohs believed they were divine, so they often married within the family to keep their blood pure. Tutankhamun's father married his own sister, and the young king himself inherited severe health problems like a cleft palate, fused bones, and a clubfoot that forced him to use a cane. At just 8 or 9, he married his half-sister, but both their daughters were stillborn. Despite these tragedies, Egyptian royals continued intermarrying for over 1,300 years, choosing blood purity over health. So these were some of the world's most inbred families that history can never forget. Their stories are shocking, disturbing, and hard to believe. Tell me in the comments which one surprised you the most. And don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more dark and mysterious stories from around the world.